Let me say the thing nobody wants to hear when gold is ripping and silver is waking up. When do I sell? Might be the wrong question, because if what's breaking is the measuring stick, if the currency system is the thing losing credibility, then selling hard money just to hold more paper profits can be like stepping out of a storm, shelter to count how dry your clothes are. And yes, I get it. When you see gold pressing toward new highs and silver suddenly moving like it drank 3 energy drinks, your brain immediately starts running old programming. This is the top. I should lock gains. I don't want to write it back down. That voice isn't stupid. It's trained. It's trained by decades of thinking in fiat terms. Trained by charts priced in a unit that can be expanded overnight. Trained by the idea that the system is permanent, so the goal must be to cash out back into it. But what if that's exactly backward? What if the real goal isn't to sell metals into currency, but to carry metals through the messy part, and then exchange them for real assets when the trade becomes absurdly favorable? That's what we're doing today. No doom, no hype, just a clear framework you can actually use so you're not making emotional decisions off a price ticker and a gut feeling. Quick heads up, this video is educational, not financial advice. I'm not telling you what to buy or sell, I'm giving you a way to think. Also, small favor. If you get value from this channel, subscribe and comment AG so I know you're part of the crew that thinks in decades, not headlines. Here's the roadmap, what monetary breakdown really means in plain English. Why bonds matter more than the news. Why taking profits can be a trap. The real exit plan, exchange, not sell, the 3-signal framework, simple, memorable, actionable. How to handle silver's chaos without panicking. A step-by-step plan to make moves in tranches, not in fear. Let's get into it. When people say the monetary order is cracking, it's easy to imagine a dramatic single event, like a switch flips and suddenly everything's different. That's not how it usually happens. Monetary systems break the way trust breaks, gradually and then quickly. First, you get quiet erosion. Purchasing power slips year after year, temporary policies become permanent. Deficits become normal. Central banks start speaking like politicians, and everyday people notice their life costs rising, faster than their paychecks. Then, you get behavior change. Savers stop saving because it feels pointless. Investors demand higher returns for safe assets. Institutions start diversifying away from concentrated risk. Governments start managing narratives harder. Then they manage budgets. And every once in a while, someone important says the quiet part out loud. Not a YouTuber, not a random account. Someone with access, with meetings, with real capital at stake, admitting the framework is shifting. That doesn't mean tomorrow is chaos. It means the rules you assumed were stable are now negotiable. Here's the key concept most people miss. Fiat currency is created as a liability. It's born from debt. It's backed by policy. It depends on confidence. Gold doesn't need a promise to exist. Silver doesn't need a vote to be money. They're not someone else's obligation. That's why when trust starts wobbling, big players don't run to more promises. They run toward assets that don't require permission. And you can actually see that behavior in the real world. Central banks accumulating gold. Reserve diversification, settlement conversation shifting, and retail demand spiking the moment fear hits. So the question becomes, if the foundation is shaking, why would you trade your foundation asset for more exposure to the thing shaking? That's the mental flip. Because if you're still thinking, how many dollars will I get when I sell? You're assuming dollars are the finish line. In a transition, currency is not the finish line. It's the hallway, and hallways are where people get trapped. So now when we talk about the loudest warning signal on Earth, one that almost nobody watches closely enough. If you want to know where a monetary regime is headed, don't start with trending topics. Start with bonds. Because bonds aren't supposed to be exciting. Bonds are the grown-up part of the market. They're supposed to be stable, boring, and predictable. So when long-dated government bonds start swinging hard when yields spike, then snap back, then spike again, that's not normal volatility. That's confidence being repriced in real time. Here's why bonds matter so much. Governments are carrying massive debt loads. When interest rates rise, debt service costs rise. And at a certain point, the math stops being inconvenient and starts being impossible. So, policymakers tend to fall into some version of the same playbook, keep rates below real inflation, financial repression, create liquidity when the system strains, support markets with new tools and new rules, encourage risk-taking because safe returns can't exist without breaking the budget. And what happens to savers during that? They get slowly drained. Not by a single crash, by 1,000 small leaks, higher food costs, higher insurance, higher housing, higher energy, and your cash yield doesn't truly catch up after taxes and real-world inflation. That's why people who only look at metal prices miss the bigger story. Gold isn't winning because it suddenly became more magical. Gold is staying gold while the currency unit does what currency units always do under pressure: expand. Same with silver. Only silver adds an extra layer. It's small, it's volatile, and it can be squeezed by public demand fast. So if bonds are shaky, currencies are being diluted, and institutions are quietly positioning, then the idea of taking profits into cash isn't automatically wise. Sometimes it's the exact moment people make the worst trade of their life. They exit real money and re-enter promises right before promises get repriced. So what's the alternative? You stop thinking like a seller, you start thinking like an exchanger. Here's the strategy shift that changes everything. I'm not focused on selling metals for more currency. I'm focused on exchanging metals for real assets when the exchange rate becomes irrational in my favor. That's not wordplay, that's the whole game. Because selling implies the destination is dollars. Exchanging implies the destination is ownership. And ownership is what matters in a reset. A stable home with low no debt productive land. A cash-flowing business. Tools and equipment that generate income. Inventory or systems that reduce dependence. Skills and certifications that increase your earning power. Energy resilience, efficiency upgrades, backup power, etc. That's the exit, moving from stored purchasing power into durable control. So when do you exchange? Not when your emotions are loud, not when your group chat is screaming top, not when a headline makes you feel smart or scared. You exchange when the ratios get extreme. Instead of asking, is gold expensive, you ask, what can this ounce buy in the real world right now? Examples you can track: house to gold ratio, how many ounces to buy a median home in your area; rent to silver ratio, how many ounces cover 1 month of rent; index to gold ratio, stocks priced in gold terms, not dollar terms; land to gold ratio, acreage priced in ounces; energy to silver ratio, how much fuel, electric cost in ounces because dollar prices can lie to you. Radios tell you what's cheap relative to what. In a monetary shift, you're not trying to win dollars. You're trying to win purchasing power and convert it into assets that survive policy cycles. And that leads to the framework 3 signals, so you can stop relying on vibes. Here's the framework I use. 3 signals. Simple. Signal number 1, the macro signal this is the system stable enough that I can afford to reduce insurance? If you see bond volatility rising, persistent deficit spending with no political path to restraint, real yields struggling to compensate savers, central bank gold, accumulation currency weakness, or competitive. To valuation, then, your macro signal is not all clear, it's keep your insurance. Because the biggest mistake in transitions is selling protection too early. Signal net 2, the exchange signal, radios. This is the heart of it. What does my metal buy right now? Track a few ratios monthly, not daily. Monthly keeps you sane. Daily turns your brain into a casino. Make it personal. If your goal is housing, track home to gold. If your goal is freedom, track business valuations in gold terms. If your goal is resilience, track equipment and energy upgrades in silver terms. When those ratios hit extremes, when real assets become cheap in metal terms, that's when you begin exchanging. Not all at once, in tranches. Signal number 3, the life signal, personal reality. Nobody talks about this because it's not dramatic, but it's the most important. If you need liquidity for a medical issue, family stability, a high confidence opportunity that produces cash flow, paying off toxic debt that's strangling you, then exchanging some metal might be the smartest move you can make. The point of preparedness is not to win a chart. The point is to improve your life and reduce fragility. So the decision is not sell or never sell. The decision is, do the macro, exchange, and life signals align? When all 3 line up, you act calmly. When they don't, you wait. Now let's talk about the messiest one. Silver and how to keep it from messing with your head. Silver is emotionally violent. It runs hard, then punishes confidence. It breaks hearts, then melts faces. Small enough to be pushed around short term, but powerful enough to surprise the public when demand hits. So here's how you handle it without self-sabotage. You split your metals into 2 buckets. Bucket A, core holdings. This is your sleep well stack. The part you don't touch unless you're making a major upgrade. Buying a home, buying land, buying into a business, relocating. For safety, opportunity, paying off the kind of debt that steals your future. Bucket B, tactical holdings. This is optional. If you're experienced, you can rebalance or take some gains during spikes. But you never risk bucket A trying to be clever, because paper markets can whip prices around. Premiums can disconnect from spot. Physical availability can disappear exactly when the price looks good on a screen, and that's a key point. A quoted price is not the same as access. In a stress moment, you'll learn the difference between I can sell at this price and I can actually buy what I need at this price. So with silver especially, your edge isn't predicting the top. Your edge is being early, being consistent, and not being forced. Now let's turn this into an actual plan you can follow. So you're not just nodding along, you're executing. Use a clean, practical plan you can write down today. Step 1. Define your end assets. Pick 3 things you'd actually exchange metals for if the trade got good. Examples: a primary residence with low no mortgage, a small rental with solid cash flow land with utility, a business you understand, equipment that increases income, energy upgrades that lower bills permanently. If you don't define the destination, you'll panic sell to whatever feels safe that week. Step 2. Pick 3 ratios and track them monthly. Keep it simple. Example set: home to gold in your Z8 code, S&P to gold, or Dow to gold. Your personal monthly survival cost in silver ounces. Write it down once a month. That's it. Step 3. Set tranche rules. Decide in advance. If the ratio hits X, I exchange 10%. If it hits Y, I exchange another 10%. No hero moves, no all in, no all out. This removes emotion and replaces it with policy, your policy. Step 4. Keep a liquidity buffer. Because the fastest way to ruin a good long-term position is a short-term emergency. Hold some cash for life. Not because cash is perfect, because life is unpredictable. Step 5. Watch for regime behavior, not headlines. Headlines are late, behavior is early. If you see rising bond stress policy responses that punish savers expanding controls, higher surveillance, tighter banking rules, accelerating cost of looting versus wages, growing public interest in hard assets. That's not the moment to ask, should I sell my protection? That's the moment to ask, what am I preparing to buy later when the exchange is historic? Now I want your input because it shapes what I make next. Comment this: do you think in price targets or in what your metals can buy? What's the first real asset you'd exchange metals for if ratios got extreme? And if you want to follow up, I can do a full breakdown of the specific ratios people track most: housing, stocks, land, energy, and how to set tranche targets without guessing. Subscribe if you want more strategy like this: less hype, more framework. Because in a credibility cycle, the win isn't calling the top. The win is holding purchasing power until the world offers you real ownership at a discount.